My name is Arthur, and I built a life that looked right, but felt empty. I've had enough years behind me now to say that without trying to soften it. There isn't much use in softening things at this stage. You either say them plainly or you keep carrying them the way you always have. I'm not here to impress anyone. That stopped mattering a long time ago. What matters now is understanding. Most of my days are quiet now. I sit in the same chair by the window. The light comes in around the same time every afternoon. It moves slowly across the floor, touches the edge of the rug, then disappears. I never used to notice light like that. I was always focused on something else, something ahead. There's not much ahead anymore, so I look back, and when I do, I see a life that made sense on paper. Work, stability, responsibility. I did what I was supposed to do. From the outside, it looked complete. Inside, it was thin. I didn't know that at the time. When I was younger, I thought emptiness came from failure. I thought as long as nothing collapsed, as long as you kept things steady, you were doing it right. But you can build something solid and still feel like there's nothing inside it. In my 20s, I wasn't reckless. I wasn't chasing excitement. I wanted stability, a good job, a predictable life, something I could rely on. I took pride in that. I showed up early, stayed late, said yes when others said no. I became the kind of person people counted on. Being dependable felt like being valuable. I didn't think much about anything beyond that. I assumed everything else would take care of itself. I met someone during those years. She was patient, thoughtful. She asked questions I didn't know how to answer, questions about how I felt, what I wanted, not just what I was doing. I remember thinking those questions were unnecessary. Life, to me, was about action, not reflection. We built something that looked like a life, shared space, shared routines. From the outside, it worked. But there were moments I didn't recognize. She would start to say something and stop, wait for me to notice. Sometimes I did. Most of the time I didn't, or I noticed and chose not to stop what I was doing. I told myself we'd talk later. Later was always available in my mind. I thought it was a place I could return to whenever I needed it. It isn't. The years moved quietly. Work expanded. Responsibilities grew. There was always something that needed attention, and I gave it. I gave my attention to what could be measured, what could be completed, what could be improved. I didn't give it to what needed time. Without a clear result, conversations became shorter, not because anything was wrong, because there was less space for them, less patience. How was your day? Became, did you finish that? Can we talk? Became, not now. It didn't feel like neglect. It felt like focus. That's what I told myself. There were dinners where I sat at the table, but wasn't really there. My mind was already somewhere else, planning, solving, preparing. I thought presence was physical. Being in the same room was enough. I didn't understand how far away you can be while sitting right next to someone. Nothing broke, no arguments, no loud moments, just less. Less conversation, less laughter, less effort. It fades in a way that doesn't demand your attention. You only notice it when it's already gone. By the time I reached what people called success, everything looked the way it was supposed to. The job, the house, the structure, people respected it. They said I had done well. I believed them. But there were moments that didn't fit. Evenings that felt too quiet. Even when someone else was there, conversations that ended quickly because there was nothing left to say. I told myself it was normal, that this is what life becomes. Less feeling, more routine. I thought that was maturity. I didn't question it. There was a moment I still returned to. She said, "You're always here, but you're never really with me." Not angry, just certain. I didn't know how to respond. Part of me wanted to defend myself. I had done everything right. I had stayed. I had provided. But another part of me knew something. You can stay and still be absent. I told myself I would change, that I would pay more attention. But habits built over decades don't disappear because of one moment. They continue. Time kept moving, and one day there was less of us than I realized. No single event, no clear ending, just distance that had been growing for years. By the time I understood, there was nothing left to repair, not because it was impossible, because the space had already been filled with absence. There are things now I can't go back to, conversations that never happened, questions I never asked, moments I missed completely. They're gone. Time doesn't argue, it doesn't explain, it just moves on. There is gratitude in my life for what I built, for what didn't fall apart, but there is also something else, a quiet understanding that something essential was missing, and I didn't see it while I had the chance. That's the hardest part. Not that I made a mistake, but that it felt right at the time. Responsible, logical, necessary. That's how most things go wrong, not through chaos, through certainty. If you're listening to this, I'm not here to tell you what to do, but I can tell you this. There's a difference between building a life and being inside it. I built something solid, but I wasn't always inside it. I thought there would be time. Later. Later. It sounds harmless. It isn't. Later is where a lot of things disappear. Now my days are simple. No rush. No deadlines. The structure is still here, but it feels different when you're alone inside it. I spend time remembering moments that could have been different if I had stopped and paid attention. If this meant something to you, maybe it's because you recognize something. That's enough. My name is Arthur, and I built a life that looked right, but felt empty. I carry that quietly, and I leave it with you.